I've learned many things by observing this kingdom, but there's one conclusion that is indisputable. Pet ownership is far more complicated than one might think. Let's welcome Anita. Well, I suppose it was only a matter of time. But if the London newspapers are really that desperate for a human interest story on our Dalmatian situation, then the least they could do is give Roger and I some advance notice. Besides, it's much more of a puppy interest story, isn't it? I really shouldn't be surprised. The dog napping was the talk of the town. It's only natural that everyone would want to know how things turned out. Still, after the way the press treated the whole affair the first time around, Roger and I aren't keen to relive it. I've kept some of the clippings here in my notebook to remember it all. Let's send Anita to review her notebook. See, November 2nd. There's Nanny on the front page of the Reynolds News, looking positively heartbroken. All the way to this issue, 6 weeks later, our puppies are still the lead story. Oh, I know it raised awareness, but it was rather tiresome to be photographed every time we left the house. All of which is to say, Roger and I have agreed to one interview, but just the one, and I'm making certain it's on our terms. We've scheduled it for tomorrow, after Roger returns from his artist's residency. That leaves me the rest of the day to organize my thoughts over a nice cup of tea at my favorite cafe. Let's send Anita to organize her thoughts. I'm sure they'll ask about Roger's latest big hit, so we should have a response in mind that doesn't dwell on who that song is about. Bringing up Cruella in conversation is liable to set Roger off on, well, on any number of tangents. Well, I suppose that's as much as I can plan regarding what to say. Now to get to the rest of the preparations. You see, the reporter asked to hold the interview in our home. I wasn't sure whether to agree to that at first, but I do think it has its advantages. This way, Roger and I will have some control over the environment. Now, let's see. I must arrange the flowers, straighten up the sheet music on the piano, and tidy up the puppy's toys. Let's build the Radcliffe residence. There, that looks right. You know, I'm going to miss this old place terribly when we move to the country, but... Wait a moment, that car parked out front halfway onto the sidewalk, is that... Anita, darling! Oh, it's been too long. Oh dear. Cruella, but why are you... I would have thought... Oh, sweet simple Anita, there's your trouble, you know, always jumping to such dreadful conclusions. Why, everyone who's anyone knows that that little ditty your timid Tchaikovsky wrote about me has run its course. Oh, well, Passé, you know, out of vogue, yesterday's news, consigned to the dustbin of musical history. Let's send Anita to wait at the Radcliffe residence. In short, simply no longer thought about at all by anyone who matters. I do hope I've made myself clear, Anita. Yes, rather extensively, but I still don't... Splendid! So you'll be thrilled to learn that I've decided to overlook your many shortcomings and let you be my friend again. Oh, I see. So, now that we're chums again, there is one little matter I must tell you about. You see, there's been some buzz among the fashionable set that you plan on talking to the press. Oh, yes, just the one interview, really, tomorrow when Roger is home. Oh, Anita, that simply won't do. Why, just imagine that sheepish shirt of yours trying to keep his story straight. That's why I've gone ahead and rescheduled that interview to today, so that I can take part instead. Thank me later, darling. Let's send Anita to suffer Cruella at the residence. Think of it, Anita, right here in this shabby old house, 100 or so of the world's finest reporters. 100? Television crews as far as the eye can see. Television? And at the very center of all that attention, sharing her story, me, of course, you'll be off on the side somewhere. Cruella, excuse me, I have to step out for some air. Oh, what a mess this is turning out to be. Oh, Cruella, the more I think about it, well, I suppose she's always been like this, even when we were at school. Sometimes I think the only reason she made friends with me in the first place was so she could have someone to lord over. And I promise, I've tried to speak up 1,000 times, but she always just interrupts or pretends not to listen or... Well, eventually it was easier not to speak up at all and just let her be. That's why I had to get out of the house just now, or I'm sure I would have fallen back into old patterns. Let's send Anita to recenter herself. Whew, alright. Steady on, Anita. You're a modern, educated, confident and capable woman who has true friends and a husband who loves you for who you really are. Yes, just because some old schoolmate shows up on your doorstep on a whim, that's no reason to... Wait. Oh dear, it can't be on a whim, can it? Something very odd is going on here, and Cruella is right in the center of it. Cruella rearranged my interview before she even came to see me. But why? Perhaps it was just because she wanted to be the center of attention. But if that's so, why bring me into it at all? She could just as easily have her own press conference without having to play at mending fences with her darling Anita. I must think this through. Best to put the kettle on. Let's send Anita to bolster herself with tea. Much better. And you know, whatever Cruella's up to, I'll just have to draw it out of her myself. Though I must be cautious, of course. It's always a challenge to steer the conversation when Cruella's concerned. But then again, if she hasn't noticed me sneaking into my own kitchen the back way to make myself some tea, I doubt she'll... Anita, darling, there you are! Why, you were gone so dreadfully long. I'd almost forgotten you existed at all. Yes, Cruella, here I am. As I was saying before you rudely wandered off, now that this interview business is settled, there's ever so much to do. clearing this wretched old furniture out of your parlor to start. I wouldn't be caught dead next to any of it on television. But Cruella, this is our home. You can't just... But I can, Anita. I must. You know, Roger and I were never very keen on the interview. Perhaps it would be best if you just did it without me. Oh, Anita, you silly thing. If only you knew how ridiculous you sound, you. Let's send Anita to wait at the Radcliffe residence. Oh, the very idea! Holding a press conference by myself? It's... Yes, I'm sure it's all very amusing, but... Who else is going to confirm every last detail of my side of the story, darling? Certainly not your hapless Hayden. Your side of the... I beg your pardon? Truthfully, Cruella, I don't quite see what more of your side of the story there is to tell. You did offer to buy our puppies once, but Scotland Yard cleared you of suspicion in the dog napping. And not a moment too soon. Don't fret, Anita dear, you'll clear up any remaining doubt about that at the press conference. Oh, so that's why. Yes, I couldn't possibly have any connection with all that puppy-stealing nonsense, and I expect you to say so. Let's send Anita to listen. Stealing puppies to make a fur coat? Complete nonsense! Why, I would have never considered such a thing. Everyone knows I was very distraught when I heard the news. Why, I wrecked my favorite roadster only a few days later. Oh, well yes, everyone knows how distractible you are behind the wheel. Distractible? How dare you! I'll have you know I had to catch up with that fan, or those little beasts would have gotten... Oh, I knew it! Stealing puppies to make a fur coat? It was you, Cruella! It was you all along! Now, Anita darling, I think you might be confused about... No one could prove it, and I didn't believe it. I didn't want to. I defended you to Roger. But now, I'm done with you treating me like waste paper, Cruella. Someone you can just use and throw away. So I'll only say this once. Get out of my house! Let's send Anita to get Cruella out. I did it. She's gone. I almost can't believe it. That she's out of my life for good, and all those horrible things she's done. But one thing's for certain. I'll have a lot more than I bargained for to tell the reporters this afternoon. Goodness, the press conference! I almost forgot. Oh dear, there's no way to know how many journalists Cruella invited to her house today. Given what I know about her, I suppose having more coverage wouldn't be a bad thing. Only Roger won't be home until tomorrow, and it just wouldn't feel right to do the interview without him. Oh, if only his residency ended a day earlier. Let's welcome Roger.